we're on We Fixed Real Estate, and we see Renee. Renee's got his traditional black shirt. We're gonna go past fashion and talk about real estate. We're gonna dive deep, right?
Thank God.
Thank God, you're right. Thank God.
But you know what? We do need new t-shirts.
We do.
We do. We absolutely do. I'm thinking the word context with the bird.
Yeah, you were mentioning that.
Some kind of a mix.
I like that.
With a website.
And thinking about context, I was thinking about Southern California in the context of land versus Northern California. And at least in my area, I'm seeing a increased inventory on my street. There's been about 4 or 5 houses that been on the market for months.
What price range are you in?
Well, about 1.1 to 1.3 million.
That's interesting. Because that's a market where you'd have more buyers because price is lower, but also they could qualify for Fannie Mae type financing. They don't have to put 20% down and do a jumbo. So there's a lot of programs that opens up. Interesting.
There's also a lot of programs, but my area has been like the last to go up over $1 million. Like we were when I first bought the house 14 years ago, they said a house will never sell on your street for more than 500,000. So there's a little bit of a perception that a house on my street will never sell for over $1 million, and a lot of people are trying to push that boundary.
Remind everybody, what town are you in?
Oh, I'm in Vista, California, just east of Carlsbad, and east of Oceanside.
Question, Drew, if you were told like this house, the place where you're buying will never go above 500, why did you still say, hey, you know what? I'll buy it anyway?
Because it's a 1/4 acre. It borders a cactus farm.
Mm-hmm.
It's got this like awesome sloping hillside with this huge, like I've got a 500 square foot big room that overlooks this entire like garden that I've got. So for me, it was all about the house, and I thought that appraiser was full of shit, actually. Because that was a very naive statement.
You get 10 appraisers in a room, you get 42 estimates. I mean, so is what it is. I just came up with an idea for micro content for sellers. We do a podcast, and it's basically going through the multiple listing service with the owner and the owner talking about the property. So we have a new listing that we did, and I'd like you to, we'll send it to you, and maybe you can chop it up into micro content for us, and we can push that out on social media.
That'd be great. Like promoting the property.
Yeah, because you can get the pictures from our website, which is
Homes.
Right. Thank you. valleyvillage.homes.
Because the whole idea is, we spend so much time browsing Zillow, Redfin, and that doesn't really tell the story of the house, right? Right now, you mentioned, why you bought your house. You weren't looking at it as an investment. You're looking about the story that it could tell about where you're going to be living in, right? And I think something that we do with our sales is we actually interview the sellers. And I mean, we sell a lot of houses. We don't really see that from a lot of other agents. So a person,
I've never seen it, to be honest.
A person buys a home. Well, not in the U.S. I will say.
Oh, really? It's overseas? Where have you seen it?
Mexico and in Spain and the UK. I mean, you get the sellers and buyers together way ahead of time, right? And even for open houses and things like that, it's more seller centric versus having an agent of sorts be in the middle of it. Because I mean, that's like it's hard, right? Because you don't want sellers to get emotional or share too much.
It's a fair housing nightmare.
Sure. But at the same time, the seller really knows the most about the house.
Sure. The little ins and outs and creaks and that's why you have to go to the house twice. First time is just, I love the paint and the furniture. My furniture looked great in here. Blah blah blah. You kind of think about your day from the time you wake up in the morning to the time you go to sleep at night, and even during your sleep periods. Can you imagine yourself in that house? How would you do it? That's the best way to realize if a house is for you or not.
it might be a little creepy, but I think one of the best things what one could do is just stay in the car the entire day outside the house that they might buy.
Just
To
taste
see
it
how
out.
yeah,
Or
just,
at least be in the neighborhood. Like go
well,
shopping at the local supermarket. Yeah.
here's one
Crazy.
property that's really important for you to realize where you're going to be living, right? Let's say there's a stop sign, four-way stop, three-way stop sign, right?
Mm.
And your house is at the other end of the stop sign. Well, when you're going through the open house at 2 p.m., it might not bother you. But if it's 8:30 p.m. On a Friday night, you have cars with their
In
headlights.
December.
Ah, right, going straight in.
Late December. Yeah.
And I have that problem at my house. I did drive by the house many times before I bought it and put an offer on, but there's a stop sign just down the street, just two doors down from my house. So by the time they're passing my house, they're accelerating. So I get a little more accelerating noise
Mhm.
in the morning and at rush hour. Other than that, it's dead. But it's something I didn't really realize until I bought the house.
Yeah.
Versus if I was on the other side of the stop sign, they would be like decelerating.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. So it's something you can miss, and every street is different, right? There's some areas where like the noise will be more bothersome, and also depends on how far out the house is. So if it's like right to the edge, it's like okay, well then the noise is going to be more bothersome. The light is going to be more bothersome. If there's no fences, oh, you might have to build a fence in front of the house for privacy. It can also just be dangerous, right? Especially if you have small kids.
I want to go back to the
Well,
word everybody understands this value add. If you go to the Arrivva site and you look at your listings, you have the podcast of the client on the listing that people can listen to.
yeah, there's some clients who don't want to do it. We understand privacy reasons. But the other thing we have on there is a website that will actually measure noise.
How loud?
It's kind of rudimentary algorithm, but it does pretty good. So you can always check that out.
I hate it. I don't think Fred realizes how bad that software is.
You know what? It's rudimentary, as I said. It's not detailed. Eventually, someone will come up with an amazing site. So
Yeah, it doesn't give you the exact, but it gives you a good idea. Like you can see like the heat map of the loud.
See, what you don't see are the flight paths that are approved. That's a great thing about it.
Talking about flight paths, man, I was down at my parents' house the other day. I forgot we were at the Liberty Station area in Point Loma, which used to be the Navy base. We grew up on the end of Point Loma, not in the flight path, but having dinner, it was amazing. Every 10 minutes, a plane over, and it's all condos down there. You I guess just get used to it.
Yeah. It's, Marina, Playa del Rey, good example, right next to LAX. We had a client go under contract for a property that they eventually got out of because of the square footage issue, among other things. They're so close. I mean, they were literally a block away from the road you take that's right next to LAX. So they were on the north side of the north side runway, which is the smaller of the two runways. So it's not as busy at night. But still, you're right there. Now I can imagine this make a great place for an airline crash pad.
Yeah.
If you don't know what that is, airline employees, they live somewhere else, but they got to fly into where they're home base because they're flying out at 7 a.m. So they just have these places they pay monthly fee, and they're all in the industry. It's great income if you can set one of those up. It's usually the people in the airline. Like I had a woman who was flight attendant who did a couple of those in Philadelphia years ago, right near the airport. So anyway, Playa del Rey is more than that. And then obviously Marina del Rey this way, or even Manhattan Beach, El Segundo right there. I mean, people live there.
Oh yeah. You just get used to it, and you need to realize that before you buy the house.
It's white noise, but yeah, be aware of it, obviously. So.
Be aware of it. Then there's the case like going on in Carpinteria right now, where a family bought a house right on Carpinteria Boulevard. I don't know if you're familiar with Santa Barbara, but Carpinteria is a street of
It's like that main road that's
the main
just
road with about 10
between the
bars,
beach and
a,
101.
and a train goes by
Yeah,
every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
About 10 bars. They bought the house and now are suing the city for noise, saying that they got to shut down the live music that has been there for 20, 30 years, forever, because it's not a residential neighborhood. Some of that.
Buyer beware sometimes, but sellers.
What advice do you give to your clients on figuring out the noise and having them like actually come to grips with understand the noise before they buy the house or even the stop sign?
A lot of our buyers, I mean, they know that they're getting a quote unquote better price or lower price because of that noise level. You definitely see it on the level of people, on the amount of people that go to the property. There's people that go on Google Maps and they realize that that house is going to be louder. So what we tell people is that you just have to go to the house. You have to go to the house and see it. Google Maps doesn't tell the whole story. The websites don't tell the whole story. There's things that you can do, like adding new windows. Right? We've told people that they can add things like water fountains, which create a better and more soothing white noise. But the matter of the fact is that there's still going to be, vehicles and noise in those streets. So it's something that you have to like just realize that you're not buying it as an investment. Just as like people told you, like, hey, your home's never gonna sell for X price. Well, it's like eventually it will appraise, but it might not appraise as much as other properties. That's just the reality of it. People are gonna pay for location. So
Yeah. One advice I have, and I know a lot of people are very visual, where they'll walk into the open house, they'll tour the open house, and they'll be talking with their wife, they'll be talking with their kids, and they really aren't thinking of all the senses. They're just seeing the visual. They may see the smell, but they're not listening.
Especially the first time. Yeah. That's why you got to go back
an outdoor patio where that's going to be a good place to hang out. My advice is sit out there. Don't talk to anyone for a few minutes and actually only listen. Close your eyes. Listen to what you're listening to and block out the visual part or sit in the living room for a few minutes and get a fair idea of what the ambient sound is like.
Totally. I sold a house to a buyer who is definitely in the flight path of San Jose Airport, just to the northeast of it. He knew it. It was in a cul-de-sac. It was a pretty basic house, but it was nice. Good garage. And they knew it. I mean, I said to them probably 3 times, you sure? You've been there, and blah, blah, blah. Some people just don't care. Some people may have lived in a loud city environment anywhere in the world, and this is like heaven to them, So,
Absolutely.
and it's a good school district too. That's the other part of it.
Oh yeah.
So,
No, it's the sound. I mean, it affects everyone differently. The other unknown factor is in condos, where you need to kind of figure out what does the upstairs sound like if you're buying a lower unit. Is the person above you? I mean, what is that going to be like when you have an upstairs?
What's the soundproofing between the floors?
what you do is you go as a couple, and then you go tell the other person, like, hey, go to the next floor up, knock on your door, and ask him to stomp on the floor in 2 minutes. Yeah.
That's an insider's tip.
When I sold years ago back in Philadelphia, and have to go to the units with people. I mean, you just learn the building. You just know it. So that's kind of a great thing that people can try to blog about.
So as much as I hate HOAs, HOAs actually have a solution for that kind of thing. So one thing to look at in a condo is if the HOA has strict restrictions on changing the flooring to the property. Usually you want to have most of the time rugs are going to be quieter than on hardwood floors or any of the. We had a seller years ago that their floor was it was a really expensive material, and I don't know if you remember, Fred. It was for the San Carlos condo. It was not hardwood floor.
Laminate, maybe?
No, but it was actually, let's say laminate. Let's say something composition. But in order to be able to change that from the carpets, they actually had to add a second layer.
Right.
So that it was soundproof.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And her unit was the only unit that had something different than carpet, because after that the HOA actually restricted any changes to the floors because they were afraid of the noise level. Now her unit obviously was really quiet; it didn't affect the lower floor,
Mhm.
but HOAs do restrict a lot of that because they want to make sure that noise is not going to be a factor. So just
Yeah.
look at HOAs that do have something about restrictions, and ask the HOA if they have those restrictions because anyone complained about the noise, or if they were trying to be proactive about it. So because it's something to be wary about, right? Did they make the rule because someone complained, or
Mhm.
did they make the rule because they wanted to make sure it didn't happen?
Yeah.
That's where a lot of the research has to go to.
That's interesting. Now,
Mhm.
Fred, noise is the topic of today. I see the tennis court in the back, and I know that there's been a lot of recent talk about now that pickleball's all the rage, has a very, very different sound than a tennis court has. Whereas you're hitting a tennis ball, it's like a soft thunk, whereas a pickleball is like a click, 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 click with a much
Well,
rowdy crowd.
actually, people they book, I think it's 2 hour segments,
Mm-hmm.
courts. And there's some people book it for 2 hours and they play, they play pickleball.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares because generically the lines are about the same. So,
But do you notice a different sound? Because I can't
yeah,
find,
that click sound.
we can put it in the show notes, but I think there's a lawsuit and they're trying to ban
Oh,
pickleball.
God, get
Couple of
over
these condo
yourself, people.
complex.
This is okay. Let's talk about something that's really important in everyone's life. I'm going to give you the best piece of advice you've ever gotten in your entire life if you own a condominium or plan to own a condominium. Look at me. Never, never under any circumstances get involved in condominium politics in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Here's the problem. The people who run associations, a lot of them are people, this is the height of power. They've been dying for this power all their lives, and they're in charge. It is Karen City.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Don't do it. Just, they come up with some crazy thing. You just talk to your neighbors and get rid of it. There's enough people who have some common sense to vote, especially in the big condominiums. So,
Stay out of politics.
stay out of the politics of condominiums.
But
But do tell them they must comply with the Fannie Mae guidelines now for reserve requirements. Please, people, I beg you, because all you're going to do is reduce the value of your condo if you don't get it, because nobody will be able to get a decent mortgage.
mm,
Standing on the soapbox again and again. That's good micro content. Condominium owners.
pearls of wisdom. But now I'm going to go back to pickleball one more time. So what happens if the something like that, which is relatively the same sport, that has a different type of noise? Is there any the only thing you can do is really go to the condo board and complain like these people, or do you suck it up?
Go to the management company if you're in a big building, if it really bothers you. But, leave these people alone. It's a little noisier. Close the door.
Have
Give
you
in
joined
your
a pickleball
2
club?
hours. No, I have right shoulder issues, so I'm done
Yeah. What about
for
you?
now.
Are you on a pickleball team?
I don't believe in pickleball.
You don't
Pickleball
believe?
is a disgrace. No, I think the real sport is tennis.
Yes.
Oh, I agree.
Pickleball is because they can't play.
You're absolutely right, René. You get older, and people can't play tennis like they used to play tennis. It's frustrating. It made older people more active and keeping them alive longer, which means they're staying in their houses longer, which means there's less houses on the market, which means you pay more money. You see how this works?
There you go.
Pickleball and real estate.
Keeps in your house longer. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's the older generation who it's like because pickleball has a smaller court. It's like people are calling to change the tennis courts into pickleball courts.
Oh, that's ridiculous. Yeah,
It's like oh,
Yeah.
okay, well, now I can't play tennis. So
exactly. You can use it for both. It's easy. It's just, yeah. I don't know. Again, that's the politics.
Yep.
Never going to win. Stay out of it.
Tirade about pickleball aside, what's the current market environment looking like, Renee, up in Northern California?
So I think the problem is, I think a lot of people are I think there's a lot of buyers, new buyers into the market. I think there's been enough I think recently there's been enough articles saying like, oh, interest rates are going lower. And there's a lot of articles saying that there's more inventory in the market. And that has, I think, created a new wave of buyers and a new wave of buyers who think that price per square foot is a way to make a bid. Right. And the problem is, and I'm sure we've said it a lot of times, is that price per square footage is more for commercial space or condos in which the buildings are identical. You can't compare price per square foot on single family houses that are completely different. Unless you're doing the actual math against like, okay, this one has a pool and this one doesn't have a pool, and you're actually using those metrics to really get into the motions of why you're using the price per square footage. It doesn't work. And I think a lot right now I'm
more micro content.
Yeah, we're dealing with a lot of buyers who don't want to follow the advice of being over prepared, right? Because we guide them to be able to get a fully underwritten pre-approval that can close in 15 days, right? And because people hear stories that my friend did this, or I had a property under contract and we did it in 30 days and we had a mortgage pre-approval. It's like, yes, that's possible. Absolutely. But we're trying to make sure that there's no reason for them to not take your offer. You want to be over prepared. If there's two equal offers, your offers has the shorter closing. So your offer is actually stronger, right? We want to make sure that you get a better deal. Maybe you offered less, but because you have better terms, which is a shorter closing time window, we're going to take your offer. And that's what you want. And sometimes people think that we're trying to be a little bit too protective of the way we're writing the offer, but it's because we want to over prepare you, right? We don't want you to overpay for a property. And at the same time, like we don't decide how much a house is going to go for. The sellers aren't really deciding that either. You have more than one buyer. Yes, there's more inventory, but a lot of that inventory is either inventory where people obviously don't want to be living in, or there's sellers that don't want to sell out or that they're selling it and at the same time renting it. Right? So it's not real inventory.
I want to go back to that price per square foot because that was brilliant.
Yeah.
And especially like in older communities like San Francisco, you're out in the avenues, you drive down the street, every freaking house looks the same, but every house has like 100 years of history of updating, of not updating, that you can't really do a price per square foot, even though you're walking down 5 identical houses.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that the bigger issue with like a market like San Francisco, for example, is not even the price per square footage pricing of what's sold, but it's about what's listed, right? We have a lot of properties. I think that by far most properties in San Francisco are listed at like 999, and it's a listing that's going to sell for 1.4, 1.5 million. That's just in general. That's what we're dealing with. So
you're factoring in a 50% over asking.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean the interior rooms, there's I should send some cool interior some properties that people are living here for decades and they make it their own. So it's totally different than what you would expect from the outside, even if they look the same. How about SoCal, Fred?
Still here. Well, it's interesting. We have a new listing up in valleyvillage.homes. Had the open house Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, 3 or 4 people. Sunday was kind of busy. It was just steady. Matter of fact, I'm just going to do opens on Sundays now. And there was people walking through and staying there and looking and looking and looking. But the thing is, we know there's at least 3 or 4 houses that are sort of kind of similar in the same ballpark.
Mhm.
So the question is, which one are they going to come back to? But always there's new buyers. And this is in the Fannie Mae probable price range for somebody that can put less than 20% down. So that's going to bring in more people. Remind me to put that in the MLS. Other than that, we're looking at a property in Marina del Rey. This is interesting, where it was right on kind of the canals that are in the marina that feed the Venice canals.
Mm-hmm.
And the view out of it, it wasn't about the view, it was about the house. The house is really nice and all 3-story, plenty of garage, just modern-ish. But it had a view of a place that was a beige, vanilla-looking building, nothing nondescript, with some gates. And so my buyers asked the agent, what is that? What's going on? And she said, I don't know. So I took a ride over there the other day. I drove right up to the building and it said City of Los Angeles water pump facility. It was a water pump. How did she not know that? Or how did she not want to find out about that? Because she should be able to see that the view wasn't that great. So, now it's like, okay, your price is your price. And yeah, there was another one down the street that sold fairly recently with basically the same view. And they're building next door. I don't know if it's ongoing or they stopped or what's going on, but that's not going to really affect anything. You'll lose some light on that side. And it still hasn't moved. So
it's only been on the market for like a week.
Yeah, I know. But if it's that great and that price, allegedly it'll go.
There's less buyers for 3 million than for 1.5.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to think what the other stuff I've been looking at. There's some stuff hitting the market that's still, I don't know, in volume, it's probably up a little bit and people are a little chill down here. Mm-hmm. It's July and August. I mean, the months are just going to be great to go do other things rather than house shopping. Some house will still be there in September. So we're looking to list the property down in Costa Mesa. It's like, want to get it on the market, but do we want to get it on the market or do we want to get it on the market for somebody who's here for the summer, maybe buy as a second home and they live in Minnesota the rest of the year? I don't know. Maybe it's a good idea to get it, on the market in August.
It is to get it because a lot of people may want to get that moved in before the winter.
Yeah.
I can say anecdotally, down here in Vista, Carlsbad area, my street's about a mile long between the freeway and the next major street. Last weekend, there was 3 estate sales on my street. I live in an older area, so I have a feeling 3 new houses are coming to market.
Yeah. Boy, we should be doing postcards down there. These poor people are going to sign whatever with the known commodity. Be safe. Mm-hmm. Unless the kids are in charge. Anyway, hey, speaking of selling, I want to show you a couple things. We talked about this, I think, at some point, but we don't use Supra lock boxes. Now, if you're not familiar with Supra, most of California uses them. And what they are is secure lock boxes that you need an app. But in order to get and register for the app, you must be a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. So it's a locked-in system. We use what's called code box. There's different sizes of them. I got one of the smaller ones here. Mm-hmm. And the reason we use it is it takes a passcode that René or I have to actually tell somebody what it is in order for them to open the box. Mm. And we know who opens the box because we have their name. So we can also let in buyers without an agent. And, after August 19th or whatever, when these new alleged rules come in, we don't know what's going on. the idea is that, hey, if you're a buyer, you want to see our listing, great. Send us your pre-approval. And we want to have a picture of you and your driver's license. Make sure it's you.
Mhm.
We got to look into a system for that. But do you know any, Drew?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm gonna look
Security systems. Okay. Anyway, and then we'll give you a code and let you in the house. So that's going to get more people in with less hassles of having to go through an agent. And this is for a house that's vacant or has staging, not if somebody's living there.
Yeah,
We won't do that. Yeah. Even if they leave, we really don't want to do that. It's a little funky. But we'll figure it out. Anyway, so that's the code box. So that's for a seller. We want you to know this is something different that we do that's better than other things that are out there. In San Diego, they have a different system. I forget the name of it. But it's locked in with the agents. The other thing I want to show you, I should be carrying around, and René, you probably have one of these. So there's a listing that came online right now in West Hollywood. It's a Spanish 3-bedroom townhouse. It's very nice. But literally the backyard was here, and like right behind it here were power lines. It's kind of creepy. So I went out and I bought one of these detectors. It was like $30-40. This is the KenMic, KenMic K132. So yeah.
What is it?
Okay, it gives me basically how much electricity is coming out of things like this computer. So of course it's going to be high. Well, there's a second field it measures too. I forget. Anyway, these are cool to have to take around with you to open houses. You can get them on Amazon, I guess.
What do you do with that information?
Well, if you see that this electric thing is high from this thing, you don't want to buy the house possibly.
Oh, if you're worried
You'll
about
radiate your kids. Yeah. Not good. So power meter. I mean, that was a big thing years ago with the power lines and Toll Brothers and the likes out suburban Philadelphia were building up against them, and people were buying them and they didn't care about the danger. And then I think there was a lawsuit about it, and they had to change the wiring methods. It's getting modernized, but still.
What does one of those little gadgets run?
It was like $30-40.
Yeah, if it's something that's important to you, that's a very inexpensive investment.
We'll find the Amazon link and throw it in the show notes.
Yeah, I'll include my affiliate ID. No, I won't.
Go for it. Make the 14 cents. You deserve it.
I definitely
get this man. Let's start a campaign to do this so we can get him a new black shirt. I think that's the problem.
No, I was trying to look nice today with my collared shirt. I am feeling a little out of place though.
Yeah, that's all right.
Well, we've come full circle. We're talking about clothing again. Yeah. And coconut water.
About
little sponsor of We Fixed Real Estate.
Once upon a coconut watermelon. Once upon a coconut watermelon. Okay, I hope is that enough time for the SEO to get to so no, it's good stuff. Really is. So you buy by the case or by the 6-pack. Amazon delivers it. It's a beautiful thing.
It's been the latest episode of We Fixed Real Estate.